Hello, welcome back. Hope you're all doing really well. I'm Chris, you're watching Frag-MENTAL, and if you want to know what are the top 10 men's fragrances released in 2021, as voted for by users of the Fragrantica website, stay tuned. I've done a couple of these Fragrantica Awards lists. The first one was top 10 men's fragrances of all time. The second was top 10 niche fragrances of all time, and you seem to like them. The videos are getting decent views, so I thought I would do some more. This time, we are talking about top 10 men's fragrances released in 2021, although some of these were released in 2020. So I'm assuming Fragrantica allowed fragrances from 2020 and 2021 for whatever reason. Maybe it was something to do with the pandemic. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to go through 10 fragrances, see how many of them I actually own, spoiler, not all of them, and whether I think they deserve a place in the top 10 men's fragrances released in 2021 and 2020. There are niche and designer fragrances on this list. There are only 2 niche fragrances, which is very interesting. The first of those 2 fragrances I'm going to talk about is from Amouage, and this is Interlude Man Black Iris. If you're familiar with the Blue Beast, the original Interlude Man, that was a very powerful fragrance, a fragrance that maybe not everyone wanted to wear out in public because it was so attention grabbing and so strong it would fill a room. Interlude Man Black Iris takes that Interlude Man DNA, which is great, but it just seems to soften it a little bit. It smooths out some edges. I think it retains a lot of what is good about Interlude Man, the resins, the smoky leather, but it adds an earthy orris and it just smooths everything out a little bit, though it is still complex, rich, and full of depth. This is a fragrance that you could wear if you want to make a statement, but you don't want to be too daring. I think it's fantastic. I love wearing this. I'm glad to see Amouage on this list because it was strangely absent from the top 10 niche fragrances of all time. So good to see Amouage here. I love the brand. Interlude Black Iris, yeah, definitely one of the best releases of the last couple of years. The fragrance at number 9 is one I did own, but now I don't own, which might tell you how I feel about it. From Giorgio Armani, it's Acqua Profondo. I really enjoyed the opening to this fragrance, but overall I was left a little bit underwhelmed, which is why I sold it. So I really liked the marine mandarin opening. I thought it had a nice pop to it. That was the best part of the fragrance. But for me, it just all faded far too quickly into this melange of blue, generic meh. Lots of you like it. Many people said on the review I did where I didn't highly rate it that they loved it, and over the last couple of years I've seen many people say it's one of their go-to marine blue aquatic summer fragrances, so no surprise that it has been voted for in this list. Do you own Profondo? Do you think it's a good fragrance? Do you think it's worthy of being in the top 10 releases of the last couple of years? And number 8, it's another Armani, this time from Emporio, and I absolutely agree that this is one of the best releases from the last couple of years. I'm talking about Stronger With You, absolutely. In general, I really enjoy the Stronger With You DNA, which uses a woody chestnut as its backbone, but this one adds a bit of smooth, boozy rum into the mix. For my money, for what it's worth, I think this is the best balanced Stronger With You. It's not too dark, it's not too light, it's complex enough to hit the spot, but it's still very mass appealing. It's equally as enjoyable to wear as it is crowd pleasing, so I think they've got it just right. Really good stuff here from Emporio Armani. I love wearing this fragrance and definitely deserves to be in this list. At number 7, it's the second and final niche fragrance, and we're sticking with the booze for this because it's by Kilian's Angel Share. Ooh, this is a good one. Boozy, orange brandy. It's very rich, very sweet and decadent. There's vanilla and spices, so it's quite a gourmand fragrance. Unless you don't like really sweet fragrances, there's not really a lot to dislike about this. Yes, it is a very expensive fragrance. I think probably one of the most expensive I've bought, but you get a lot for that money. You get a sensational smell and you get fantastic performance. Wearing this in the autumn and winter, it's just a powerhouse, yet it still manages to be elegant and nuanced at the same time. Really nicely blended stuff from by Kilian. This was very, very popular on release. I don't think I saw any negative reviews when this one came out. So no surprises, it's in the top 10 list of recent releases. I certainly think it deserves to be here. The fragrance at number 6. I saw it and I thought, really? So I went back and sprayed this fragrance because I hadn't sprayed it in a while and I wasn't that enamored with it when I first did my review. From Guerlain, it is L'Homme Idéal extreme. I first sprayed this fragrance, I was underwhelmed because I was expecting something extreme. I wanted more complexity, I wanted the tobacco and the leather to punch out more, but it's all quite a smooth blend and I didn't expect it to be that. But having said all this, I did spray this again recently in preparation for this video and I was very pleasantly surprised because I think I like it more now than I did. And this goes back to in an earlier video where I was talking about revisiting fragrances that we haven't smelled for a while, particularly ones that you buy as soon as they are released. And I think a couple of days after this came on Guerlain's website, I picked this one up. So it was brand new. I don't know how much maceration these go through. I'm assuming they do, but I genuinely feel that since that day, that week or two I was first wearing this fragrance in the bottle, it's just been sat in the dark on my shelf. I feel like it's matured a little bit. I think the tobacco and the leather now seem to be adding a bit more depth to the fragrance and it has a little more of that complexity that I wanted. For me, it could be still a little more complex and a little punchier. It's still a very smooth fragrance, but overall I do enjoy it. I think it's a really good fragrance. I'm certainly going to be wearing this a lot more in the autumn and winter, and if I hadn't have made this video, if I hadn't have seen this list on Fragrantica's website, maybe this would have just stayed at the back of my shelf and I would never have ever worn it again. So I'm glad I decided to make this video because it's always nice to revisit fragrances that you may have changed your mind on. If you love fragrance as much as I do, head over to my online store luxparfum.co.uk. You'll find my favourite brands plus brands you can't find anywhere else in the UK. Link is in the description. At number 5, it's a Tom Ford, it's a flanker. It is Ombre Leather Parfum. Really enjoy the original Ombre Leather. I do like this one equally as much. However, I feel this is a more versatile fragrance. It's a little drier, a little greener than the original. I think Ombre Leather is a great autumn fragrance, possibly spring, but this one I think I could quite easily wear all year round. It maybe leans a little older because it's not as sweet as the original, and I don't necessarily think this being a parfum makes much of a difference. I can't tell that much of a difference, certainly in performance, between the EDP and the Parfum. But Tom Ford Ombre Leather Parfum is a beautiful creation, one of my personal favourites from last year. So yes, this should definitely be in this list. Number 4 is a funny one because it's a re-release of a fragrance that already existed. They just changed the name on the bottle. But I'm glad it's here because I think this is a stunning fragrance. It's Dior Homme Original. This is not the rebranded original. Mine just says Dior Homme. The new one says Dior Homme Original. Even though it's new, it's still the same fragrance as when it was just Dior Homme, and they changed it because there's a Dior Homme 2020 which smells completely different to this one. Dior like to make things clear and easy for us to understand, don't they? Anyway, the only difference between Dior Homme Original and the original Dior Homme is the name. It's still the same fragrance as far as I can tell. And incidentally, the 2020 Dior Homme, which smells completely different, was at number 12 on this list. So that has proved quite popular as well. I remember it getting negative comments at the time, so I'm quite surprised it made it to number 12, but there it is. So you know this one, powdery iris, metrosexual vibes, arguably the most versatile of the Dior Homme line. If you get on with that lipsticky powdery iris, I would say, I think everyone should probably have this in the collection. Number 3 is from Yves Saint Laurent and it's La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique, which came to save us all from the La Nuit de l'Homme reformulation by smelling practically the same as the original. Our saviour was resurrected in new form and everyone wanted it. And then it got discontinued. YSL, it could have made a killing. But you know what guys, don't sweat it because although this does have slightly better performance than current formulation of La Nuit and it smells very similar, don't pay silly prices for vintage La Nuit or for this now it's discontinued. Just get the current formulation of La Nuit de l'Homme. If you like that type of smell, you'll love it. Performance doesn't stink. It's still pretty decent. Just get that. Don't waste your money on discontinued fragrances. But this one, well, very good release. Good while it lasted. When I first smelled the fragrance at number 2, I was very pleasantly surprised because it's a flanker of one of my favourite fragrances of all time, the fragrance that I've probably worn more than any other fragrance in my life. From Jean-Paul Gaultier, it's La Malle Le Parfum, and to me, this was like a modernised version of La Malle. It kept the same character, but it added some trendy vanilla and iris. It balances warm, huggy notes with sexy party vibes, which is a pretty killer combo. So well done, Jean-Paul Gaultier, good release. I just wish I could say that every time. One of these brands here has 2 fragrances in the top 10. One of them is here in front of me, the other is the number 1. Can you guess which brand it might be? It's Dior, because the number 1 fragrance from last year, as voted for by Fragrantica users, is Dior Sauvage Elixir. It's got a bit of that Sauvage DNA, a dash of licorice, some woody depth, and I'd say this is less of a guilty pleasure than any of the other Sauvages because it's a more serious scent with some added gravitas. And fair play to Dior for deviating from the traditional Sauvage DNA, because this one does smell quite different. I don't think I would have instantly recognised it as a flanker to Sauvage. Dior were brave in doing that. Fortune favours the brave, and the result is Dior have ended up with a number 1 fragrance at the top of a top 10 list of best fragrances of last year. Do I think it deserves to be at number 1? Well, yeah, I think so. I probably like it equally as much as Dior Homme Original, Ombre Leather Parfum and Angel Share. Dior have created a really nice fragrance, very popular, so no, I'm not sour about it being number 1. Are you? What do you think? I think it's about right. I think Fragrantica users got it right. If anything, I would probably switch out Acqua Profondo for Spice Bomb Infrared because I really like that one, but for the most part, I think I'm on board with the Fragrantica voters. Are there any here that you don't think should be? Are there any that aren't here that you think should? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it. If you liked the video, give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.